In this video, you'll discover 100 essential key terms from Domain 1, Security Principles of the ISC2 Certified in Cybersecurity (CC) exam that will help you prepare for the exam and boost your confidence. Let's get started. 1. Accountability. Accountability ensures that actions and decisions can be traced to responsible individuals, especially in the event of a security incident. For example, system logs record the username and timestamp of a file deletion, allowing the organization to hold the user accountable. 2. Adequate security. Adequate security refers to the level of protection that meets the organizational and regulatory requirements to protect data and systems from unauthorized access or harm. It is a relative concept that balances the cost of implementation with the value of the asset being protected. Here is an example. For a healthcare provider, ensuring adequate security might involve encrypting patient records, implementing access controls, and conducting regular audits to comply with HIPAA standards. 3. Administrative controls. Administrative controls are security policies, procedures, and guidelines created by management to influence user behavior and reduce risk. For instance, requiring all employees to complete annual cybersecurity training and sign an acceptable use policy are examples of administrative controls. 4. Artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence (AI) refers to systems or machines that simulate human intelligence to perform tasks like learning, reasoning, and detecting anomalies. An example includes: a security solution uses AI to detect abnormal login behavior and flag it as a potential account compromise. 5. Asset. An asset is anything of value to an organization that must be protected, such as data, software, hardware, people, or reputation. For example, a company's intellectual property, such as source code for its software product, is a critical information asset. 6. Attack surface. The attack surface is the total sum of all possible points where an unauthorized user can try to access or extract data from a system. Here is an example. A web app with outdated plugins, multiple login pages, and exposed APIs has a large attack surface that needs to be minimized. 7. Audit trail. An audit trail is a chronological record of system activities that helps track user actions and system changes. For instance, a system audit trail shows who accessed a patient record, when, and from which location, supporting both security and compliance. 8. Authentication. Authentication is the process of verifying the identity of a user, device, or system to ensure it is legitimate. An example includes: an employee must enter their username and password to access the internal HR system, verifying their identity through authentication. 9. Authorization. Authorization determines what actions or access rights a verified user or system is permitted to have. For example, after authentication, an HR manager can view employee records, while a regular employee cannot, due to role-based authorization. 10. Availability. Availability ensures that data, systems, and services are accessible and operational when needed by authorized users. Here is an example. An e-commerce site uses redundant servers and backups to ensure availability during a system failure. 11. Availability zone. In cloud computing, an availability zone is a physically separate data center within a cloud region to ensure redundancy and high availability. For instance, a cloud-hosted website uses 2 availability zones to remain operational even if one data center goes offline. 12. Baseline. A baseline is a set of minimum security configurations or performance standards that systems must adhere to in an organization. An example includes: all corporate laptops must include antivirus software, encrypted drives, and screen lock settings as part of the security baseline. 13. Biometric. Biometrics refers to authentication methods based on unique biological characteristics, such as fingerprints or facial recognition. For example, employees scan their irises to gain access to a secured facility instead of using traditional ID cards. 14. Blacklist. A blacklist is a list of entities, such as IP addresses or applications, that are explicitly denied access to a system or network. Here is an example. A firewall blocks traffic from IP addresses on the organization's blacklist to prevent known malicious activity. 15. Bot. A bot is an automated script or program that performs repetitive tasks and can be used for legitimate purposes or malicious activities. For instance, a malicious bot automatically tries thousands of username-password combinations on a login page in a brute force attack. 16. Business continuity. Business continuity is the capability of an organization to continue essential operations during and after a disruption. An example include: after a ransomware attack, the organization switches to backup servers to maintain operations as part of its business continuity plan. 17. CIA triad. The CIA triad is a foundational security model that focuses on maintaining confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information. For example, encrypting emails, confidentiality, using hashing, integrity, and maintaining backup systems, availability, implement the CIA triad. 18. Classified information. Classified information refers to data that is restricted based on its sensitivity and requires protection according to laws or policies. Here is an example. A government contractor stores documents labeled confidential that can only be accessed by employees with proper clearance. 19. Confidentiality. Confidentiality ensures that sensitive information is only accessed by authorized individuals and protected from disclosure. For instance, a finance department encrypts payroll files before emailing them internally to maintain confidentiality. 20. Configuration management. Configuration management involves maintaining and documenting the correct settings and versions of hardware and software systems to ensure security and stability. An example includes: an IT team uses automation tools to ensure all servers run the same OS version and approved software configurations. 21. Control. A control is a safeguard or countermeasure put in place to reduce security risks and enforce policy. For example, implementing user access restrictions on financial systems is a control to prevent unauthorized transactions. 22. Criticality. Criticality measures how essential an asset, system, or function is to the continuity and operation of an organization. Here is an example. The email server is marked as a critical system because its failure would halt internal communications. 23. Cryptography. Cryptography is the science of securing information by transforming it into unreadable formats for unauthorized users, usually through encryption. For instance, online banking systems use cryptographic algorithms to secure transactions and communication. 24. Data breach. A data breach is an incident where sensitive, confidential, or protected data is accessed or disclosed without authorization. An example includes: an attacker exploits a vulnerability in a third-party vendor system to steal thousands of customer credit card numbers. 25. Data classification. Data classification is the process of categorizing data based on its level of sensitivity and required security controls. For example, a document labeled internal use only cannot be emailed externally and requires encrypted storage. 26. Data custodian. A data custodian is responsible for implementing and managing the technical controls that protect data, as defined by the data owner. Here is an example. An IT administrator ensures that backup systems are running and encrypted for the databases under their control. 27. Data integrity. Data integrity refers to the accuracy, consistency, and trustworthiness of data throughout its lifecycle. For instance, a backup system uses hashing to verify that the restored data exactly matches the original, ensuring data integrity. 28. Data owner. A data owner is the individual or group responsible for determining how specific data should be protected and used. An example includes: a department head defines who can access financial reports and for what purposes, acting as the data owner. 29. Defense in depth. Defense in depth is a layered approach to cybersecurity, where multiple controls are used across different levels to protect data and systems. For example, a company uses firewalls, antivirus software, encryption, user training, and logging to implement defense in depth. 30. Digital certificate. A digital certificate is an electronic credential issued by a certificate authority to verify the identity of an entity and facilitate encrypted communication. Here is an example. A website uses an SSL/TLS certificate to enable HTTPS and prove its authenticity to visitors. 31. Due care. Due care refers to the actions an organization takes to show it has acted responsibly to protect systems and data. For instance, a company ensures its employees complete cybersecurity awareness training annually, demonstrating due care. 32. Due diligence. Due diligence involves identifying, evaluating, and mitigating security risks, especially when acquiring or partnering with third parties. An example includes: before integrating a third-party service, a company reviews the vendor's security practices to ensure due diligence. 33. Encryption. Encryption is the process of converting data into a format unreadable to unauthorized users to protect it during storage or transmission. For example, a messaging app uses end-to-end encryption so that only the sender and receiver can read the conversation. 34. Endpoint. An endpoint is any device that connects to a network and can serve as an entry point for threats, such as laptops, smartphones, or IoT devices. Here is an example. An attacker gains access to sensitive data by exploiting an unpatched vulnerability on a remote employee's endpoint laptop. 35. GDPR. The General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, is a European Union law that governs the protection of personal data and privacy for individuals within the EU. For instance, an online retailer must obtain consent before collecting personal information from EU customers and allow them to request deletion, as required by GDPR. 36. Governance. Governance refers to the framework of policies, procedures, and controls that direct and manage an organization's information security efforts. An example includes: an organization forms a security governance board to review risk reports, approve policies, and ensure compliance with security objectives. 37. HIPAA. The Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, HIPAA, is a U.S. regulation that mandates protection of health information. For example, a hospital encrypts patient medical records and limits access to authorized staff to comply with HIPAA requirements. 38. Honeypot. A honeypot is a decoy system designed to attract attackers, allowing security teams to observe their methods and behavior. Here is an example. A company sets up a fake database server as a honeypot to detect intrusion attempts without risking real data. 39. IEEE. The Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, IEEE, is a standards body that develops protocols for technology and networking. For instance, IEEE 802.3 defines the standard for Ethernet communication used in most wired networks. 40. IETF. The Internet Engineering Task Force, IETF, is a global organization that develops and maintains Internet protocols and standards. An example includes: the IETF developed the TLS protocol, which secures data transmission across websites. 41. Impact. Impact refers to the extent of harm or damage that could result from a threat exploiting a vulnerability. For example, a ransomware attack that locks critical medical systems in a hospital has a high impact due to its effect on patient care. 42. Information security risk. Information security risk is the potential for unauthorized access, use, disclosure, or destruction of information due to a threat exploiting a vulnerability. Here is an example. A legacy server with outdated software and no firewall poses a high information security risk to the network. 43. Insider threat. An insider threat is a security risk originating from within the organization, such as employees or contractors. For instance, A disgruntled employee copies sensitive customer data to a USB drive and shares it externally. This is an insider threat. 44. Integrity. Integrity ensures that information remains unchanged from its original form unless altered by authorized individuals in an approved way. An example includes: a company uses digital signatures to ensure that an email message was not altered after being sent. 45. ISO. The International Organization for Standardization, ISO, creates and maintains international standards, including for information security. For example, a company certifies its information security program to ISO/IEC2 7001 to demonstrate compliance with best practices. 46. Least privilege. The principle of least privilege ensures users and systems are granted only the minimum access needed to perform their tasks. Here is an example. A customer service agent can view but not edit billing records because of least privilege settings. 47. Likelihood. Likelihood is the estimated probability that a specific threat will successfully exploit a vulnerability within a given time frame. For instance, if an exposed server has unpatched software and faces the internet, there's a high likelihood of an attacker exploiting it. 48. Likelihood of occurrence. Likelihood of occurrence is the estimated chance that a specific threat will exploit a known vulnerability within a given time frame. An example includes: based on historical data and system exposure, the security team estimates a 70% likelihood of phishing emails targeting employees within the next year. 49. Logging. Logging is the process of recording events and activities on systems and networks for monitoring, auditing, and forensic purposes. For example, a security information and event management (SIEM) tool collects login attempts and system errors from all devices in the network for analysis. 50. Logical access control. Logical access control refers to the technical mechanisms that restrict access to systems and data based on identity and permissions. Here is an example. A password-protected login with user roles defines who can access what sections of a web application, enforcing logical access control. 51. Malicious code. Malicious code is software intentionally designed to harm systems, steal data, or disrupt operations, such as viruses, worms, or ransomware. For instance, a ransomware variant encrypts an employee's files and demands payment for the decryption key. This is a type of malicious code. 52. Malware. Malware refers to any software specifically intended to damage or disrupt a system, steal data, or gain unauthorized access. An example includes: a user accidentally installs malware from a fake browser update pop-up, leading to a data breach. 53. Mitigation. Mitigation involves reducing the severity or impact of a threat or vulnerability through preventive actions or safeguards. For example, installing intrusion detection systems helps mitigate the risk of undetected attacks. 54. Multi-factor authentication, MFA. MFA is a security mechanism requiring users to verify their identity using 2 or more factors, something they know, have, or are. Here is an example. To access a secure VPN, a user must enter a password, something they know, and verify a code from their smartphone app, something they have. 55. Need to know. The need-to-know principle ensures that individuals only have access to information necessary to perform their duties. For instance, an HR staff member cannot access engineering blueprints because they do not have a business need to know. 56. NIST. The National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, is a U.S. government agency that develops cybersecurity standards, frameworks, and guidelines. An example includes: organizations in the U.S. often follow the NIST cybersecurity framework to assess and improve their security posture. 57. Non-repudiation. Non-repudiation ensures that a sender cannot deny sending a message and the recipient cannot deny receiving it, usually enforced by digital signatures. For example, a user digitally signs a contract before submitting it via email. The signature provides non-repudiation, proving the origin and content. 58. Password policy. A password policy defines the rules for creating and managing passwords to enforce security. Here is an example. A company requires passwords to be at least 12 characters long and changed every 90 days per its password policy. 59. Patch management. Patch management is the process of acquiring, testing, and deploying updates to software and systems to fix vulnerabilities. For instance, the IT team installs monthly security patches on all servers to reduce the risk of exploitation. 60. Penetration testing. Penetration testing is the simulated exploitation of vulnerabilities by authorized professionals to test system defenses. An example includes: ethical hackers perform a penetration test by attempting to bypass security controls on the company's web application. 61. Personally identifiable information, PII. PII refers to data that can be used to identify an individual, such as name, address, email, or ID numbers. For example, a customer support system that stores names, email addresses, and national IDs is responsible for protecting that PII. 62. Physical controls. Physical controls are security measures that prevent unauthorized physical access to facilities, equipment, or resources. Here is an example. A company uses keycard locks, video surveillance, and biometric scanners to restrict physical access to its data center. 63. Policy. A policy is a formal statement of rules and expectations governing behavior, processes, or technology within an organization. For instance, the acceptable use policy outlines what users can and cannot do with company devices. 64. Principle of separation of duties. This principle requires splitting critical tasks among multiple individuals to reduce the risk of fraud or error. An example includes: one employee initiates a payment, while another approves it, ensuring separation of duties. 65. Privacy. Privacy refers to the right of individuals to control how their personal information is collected, used, and shared. For example, a mobile app requests permission before accessing the user's location, in compliance with data privacy laws. 66. Privilege creep. Privilege creep occurs when users accumulate access rights beyond what they need, usually over time, leading to unnecessary risk. Here is an example. An employee promoted to different roles keeps access to their previous systems, creating a privilege creep situation. 67. Probability. Probability is the measure of the chance that a particular event or outcome, such as a security breach, will occur. For instance, the IT team estimates a low probability of a DDoS attack based on previous logs and minimal public exposure of the system. 68. Proprietary information. Proprietary information is confidential data owned by an organization that gives it a competitive advantage and must be protected. An example includes: a tech company's secret algorithm for data compression is proprietary information. 69. Protected health information, PHI. PHI is any health-related information that can identify an individual and is protected under regulations like HIPAA. For example, a hospital stores electronic medical records, EMRs, that include patient names, diagnoses, and treatment history, all classified as PHI. 70. Qualitative risk analysis. A method of assessing risks based on subjective judgment, experience, and categorization rather than numerical data. Here is an example. A security analyst uses a high/medium/low scale to assess the potential impact of a threat due to the lack of historical data. 71. Quantitative risk analysis. A risk assessment method that assigns numerical values to risk components, allowing for cost-benefit analysis and comparisons. For instance, the team estimates that a ransomware incident would cause $500,000 in damages, helping management decide on a $50,000 investment in new security software. 72. Residual risk. Residual risk is the remaining risk after all mitigation efforts and controls have been applied. An example includes: Even after applying encryption and access controls, a small chance of data loss during transfer still exists. This is residual risk. 73. Risk. Risk is the potential for loss or harm resulting from the exposure of vulnerabilities to threats. For example, storing unencrypted customer data on a public server introduces the risk of a data breach. 74. Risk acceptance. Risk acceptance involves acknowledging a risk and choosing not to take action to mitigate it, often because the cost of control exceeds the impact. Here is an example. A startup chooses not to implement costly DDoS protection because their risk analysis shows minimal exposure. 75. Risk assessment. Risk assessment is the process of identifying, analyzing, and evaluating security risks to determine their impact and likelihood. For instance, during an annual audit, an organization identifies 20 potential risks and prioritizes them based on likelihood and impact. 76. Risk avoidance. Risk avoidance involves eliminating activities or systems that pose a potential risk rather than managing the risk. An example includes: a company discontinues the use of USB storage devices to avoid the risk of malware being introduced into the network. 77. Risk management. Risk management is the ongoing process of identifying, analyzing, responding to, and monitoring cybersecurity risks. For example, a financial institution uses a risk management framework to address new threats, apply controls, and update its risk register regularly. 78. Risk management framework. A structured approach that defines how an organization identifies, evaluates, and addresses security risks. Here is an example. The organization adopts the NIST Risk Management Framework, RMF, to guide how security controls are selected and monitored. 79. Risk mitigation. Risk mitigation involves taking steps to reduce the impact or likelihood of a threat exploiting a vulnerability. For instance, installing antivirus software and patching systems regularly are common risk mitigation practices. 80. Risk tolerance. Risk tolerance defines the acceptable level of risk an organization is willing to accept without action. An example includes: a company defines a risk tolerance of up to $10,000 per year for non-critical system outages. 81. Risk transference. Risk transference involves shifting the impact of a risk to a third party, such as through insurance or outsourcing. For example, a company purchases cyber insurance to cover financial losses from data breaches, transferring the financial risk to the insurer. 82. Risk treatment. Risk treatment refers to the set of actions taken to manage risks, including avoidance, mitigation, transference, or acceptance. Here is an example. After a risk assessment, the IT team implements firewalls, mitigation, buys insurance, transference, and accepts minor risks without action. 83. Security awareness training. This training educates users on how to recognize and respond to cybersecurity threats, helping reduce human risk. For instance, employees complete phishing simulation training as part of their annual security awareness program. 84. Security incident. A security incident is any event that compromises the confidentiality, integrity, or availability of data or systems. An example includes: an unauthorized login attempt from a foreign IP triggers an alert, indicating a potential security incident. 85. Security policy. A security policy defines the organization's overall approach to protecting its information and systems. For example, the organization's security policy mandates encryption of all mobile devices and regular vulnerability scans. 86. Security token. A security token is a physical or software-based device used to authenticate a user, often as part of multi-factor authentication. Here is an example. Employees use mobile apps that generate time-based one-time passwords, TOPs, as authentication tokens. 87. Service Level Agreement, SLA. An SLA is a contract between a service provider and a client that defines the expected level of service, including uptime, response time, and responsibilities. Here is an example. A cloud provider guarantees 99.9% uptime in its SLA with the customer. 88. Social engineering. Social engineering is the manipulation of people into performing actions or divulging confidential information for malicious purposes. Here is an example. A caller pretending to be IT staff tricks an employee into revealing their login credentials, a social engineering attack. 89. Spam. Spam refers to unsolicited, often irrelevant or inappropriate messages, typically sent in bulk over email or messaging platforms. Here is an example. Employees receive dozens of spam emails promoting fake investments, cluttering their inboxes and potentially hiding malicious messages. 90. Spoofing. Spoofing involves impersonating a trusted source to deceive users or systems and is often used in phishing or network attacks. Here is an example. A hacker sends an email that looks like it came from the CEO asking for urgent financial transfers, a spoofing attempt. 91. System integrity. System integrity ensures that a system performs its intended function without being altered or tampered with by unauthorized users or software. Here is an example. After a software update, a system verification check confirms that no unauthorized changes were made to critical files, maintaining system integrity. 92. Technical controls. Technical controls are safeguards implemented through technology to protect systems and data from security threats. Here is an example. Firewalls, intrusion detection systems, and antivirus software are examples of technical controls used to prevent unauthorized access. 93. Threat. A threat is any potential event or action that could cause harm to systems, networks, or data by exploiting vulnerabilities. Here is an example. A hacker attempting to gain unauthorized access to a corporate database is considered a threat to the organization. 94. Threat actor. A threat actor is an individual or group responsible for carrying out malicious activities against systems, networks, or data. Here is an example. An insider disgruntled employee who steals customer data before quitting is a threat actor. 95. Threat hunting. Threat hunting is the proactive search for threats and indicators of compromise within an organization's environment before alerts are triggered. Here is an example. A cybersecurity analyst performs weekly threat hunting by analyzing logs and detecting unusual lateral movement in the network. 96. Threat intelligence. Threat intelligence involves collecting and analyzing data on potential or active cyber threats to improve security decision-making. Here is an example. A security team uses threat intelligence feeds to block IPs associated with known botnets. 97. Threat vector. A threat vector is the path or method used by a threat actor to gain unauthorized access to a system or network. Here is an example. A phishing email that tricks a user into revealing login credentials is a common threat vector. 98. Token. A token is a device or software-generated code used as part of authentication to verify a user's identity. Here is an example. An employee uses a hardware token that generates a 6-digit code every 30 seconds as part of multi-factor authentication. 99. Vulnerability. A vulnerability is a weakness or flaw in a system, process, or application that can be exploited by a threat actor. Here is an example. A web application with an unpatched SQL injection flaw is a vulnerability that hackers can exploit to access sensitive data. 100. Whitelisting. Whitelisting is a security strategy that allows only approved software, IP addresses, or applications to run or access a system. Here is an example. Only pre-approved applications listed on the whitelist can be installed on company laptops. Thank you for watching at the end of this video. Please remember to like and share this video and subscribe to our channel to stay updated on our latest tutorials, quizzes, and multiple choice questions, and share your thoughts or questions in the comments below.